Have you ever thought about how stepping out of your comfort zone could actually lead to some pretty amazing growth in your life? Hi, I'm Dave, and if you're new here, this is my Resilience Strategies for Dad YouTube channel. We are on day 26 of a 30-day challenge where I'm giving you 30 different perspectives on self-motivation and how to become self-motivated in your life. So if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. If you like what we talk about today, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. It's all about sharing value here, giving you value, answering your questions. But if you have any questions, please just let me know, and I'm happy to create videos and answer questions based on what you might be thinking about. Coming up, we're going to be talking about 3 ways you can turn discomfort into unstoppable growth. So when I talk about getting uncomfortable, right, I'm not talking about feeling uncomfortable all the time. But in order to grow, you've got to do uncomfortable things. Sometimes you have to go back to school when you think you're done your education. You have to do extra training at work. Maybe you have to put a little extra effort into picking up the phone and calling somebody, or better yet, going and knocking on somebody's door, a friend, and talking to them. Sometimes those situations feel uncomfortable, but they usually typically lead to something better than what you already had. So in my world of being a triathlete, being uncomfortable in a triathlete perspective simply means doing things every day that are a little bit out of your comfort zone so that you learn and grow. I'll give you a good example. When I was first training for a triathlon, my first half Ironman, I could swim 2 kilometers in the pool. That wasn't a problem. But getting out into open water, that I was doing the same activity, but the environment changed. And that environment change made me feel extremely uncomfortable. Let me introduce you to the northern water snake, something I didn't even know existed, and now I do because I've seen them firsthand. And let me tell you, when you're out there swimming, and in late summer when the weeds start to grow up to the surface and you're swimming along and all of a sudden a weed just kind of snakes across your leg, you think to yourself, oh my God, is that a snake? Because it sure as hell feels like a snake going up my leg. And it's just you swimming through the weeds, but all of these thoughts go through your brain, especially if you've seen one of these suckers. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling. But going through that experience only prepares me to be better prepared for race day when something uncomfortable might happen. And this is where you see people who in life, panic or have anxiety attacks, often because they're put into an uncomfortable position and they don't have the coping mechanisms to get themselves out of that situation. So part of me forcing myself to go out and swim in the Welland Canal, if you don't know what that is, it connects Lake Ontario to Lake Erie to Lake Ontario. And I swim. We have a recreational waterway in the 2nd edition of the canal, where I think we're on the 3rd edition of the canal now. So there's no ships in there. It's a recreational waterway, but there is marine life in that water. It's a very clean body of water, but it's still it's a very uncomfortable feeling being in there, especially when you've seen these kind of snakes hanging around and you've seen big fish in the water. So again, putting yourself into a situation where you're feeling uncomfortable, that's what might lead to you having the coping mechanisms, the strategies that you need to push yourself through that so that you can come out on the other side feeling like you've done something pretty special. So that takes me to point number 1. Embrace discomfort as your growth fuel. Now, what do I mean by that? That's simply, I'm not saying, go out and put yourself in uncomfortable positions where you're not going to learn anything. What I'm saying is put yourself in an uncomfortable position that's going to give you the tools that you need so that you can continue to move forward, learn and grow, right? I talked about the swimming example. In your career, there's nothing worse than feeling like you are getting stuck in your career or falling behind. So the easiest way for you to move forward in your career is to do what other people aren't willing to do. That is simply go out and get the additional training, take courses. It might feel uncomfortable, but if you're not constantly learning, you're actually putting yourself in a position to get stuck or fall behind in your career. So, it's very, very important that you look at discomfort as growth opportunities, growth fuel, not just difficult situations. That brings me to point number 2. Reframe challenges as opportunities. So, for example, when I was first looking at open water swimming, that was a huge mental challenge. But the opportunity was, if I got to get over that mental challenge, then I got to experience what it would feel like to be an Ironman on race day. Because without that experience, I was putting myself in extreme danger. There was a gentleman by the name of Mark Weska. He was the same age as me. He was from Buffalo, New York in 2011. He went down to Louisville to do his first Ironman, same as me. And unfortunately, Mark had a panic attack, then a heart attack in the water at the start of the swim. He didn't practice being uncomfortable. And in an interview after the race, after Mark's passing, his father mentioned that Mark was an accomplished swimmer, but he hated open water swimming, so he never practiced the skill. So even though you might be good at a certain activity, the point is you've got to be good at it in multiple different environments. Otherwise, you're only good in one area, one element, right? So if you think about, again, your job, you might be really, really good at one thing, but if your circumstances change, are you still that expert? Are you still that, that useful person? I work in the construction industry sometimes, and what we always talk about in safety is, has your environment changed? So when you do a toolbox talk in the morning, you basically lay out all the risks and hazards to the employees. But if something changes, then you have to, in the environment, then you have to reassess and reevaluate and replan. Well, that's exactly what's happening in your life, is that the environment is constantly changing. The question is, are you keeping up to speed so that you can be valuable to your company, to yourself, so that you're always moving forward? And that takes me to my final step, and that is just one bite at a time. We've all heard the old analogy that the way you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Well, the way you finish an Ironman is one step at a time, one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time. It takes time. But if you only ever focus on the end goal, right, you've got to have that vision. But if you only ever focus on that, it can feel like you're not getting there quickly enough. And it becomes really, really easy to quit. Whereas if you take some of the strategies that I've given you over the last 26 days, and we think about, well, how can I take a long-term goal and how can I make that my inspiration, my motivation today? Well, progress, right? We've got our progress chart here. We're on day number 26 of our 30-day challenge. So, right, there's the goal. We started up here. Every day I gave myself a check mark. Every day I gave myself a hit of dopamine. Every day I can see the progress that I'm getting closer to 30 days. Take any challenge, any goal that you have in your life. It's going to feel uncomfortable on day 1 because you're going to see a big empty page. But as time goes on and you just focus on one day at a time, one step at a time, one video at a time, eventually you get to 30 days and you go, wow, what do I know here that I didn't know here? This is how you grow. This is a very uncomfortable thing for a lot of people to do, get on camera. Start learning editing techniques. Start learning how to better script a video. Start learning just how to structure content and then put it out into the world, and then look at the metrics and ask yourself, why did this hit? Why did it miss? Is it still good evergreen content? What is evergreen content? All of these things just don't come naturally to people. People aren't born YouTube creators. They have to learn and grow, and it takes time. So if this was of interest to you today, if you got value from this video, if I always say, if there's just one little nugget you get from these videos, it's like reading a book. I've got a ton of books that I've paid, $30, $40, $50 for, sometimes $100 for. And in that book, there might be 1 or 2 little nuggets that just sort of 10x your ability to perform. And that's how, I love the idea that these videos could inspire somebody to become self-motivated so that they can get unstuck in their lives and start moving closer towards the goal that they've set for themselves and understand better what the process looks like. This is what the Ironman taught me. right? It taught me that if you're going to have a big lofty goal and that goal is going to be a year away, how do I stay self-motivated today and throughout the struggle so that by the time I get to the finish line, not only do I feel amazing about myself, but maybe the finish line isn't exactly what I thought it might be, right? Like if I look at this, if I actually go to YouTube and I look at my analytics, I had thought that by the time I got through 30 videos, boy, I would probably have 1,000 subscribers easy. Here's the thing. I'm not saying the right words. I'm not creating the right titles that are giving the algorithm the information it needs to serve my videos up to the right type of person. Some of you are enjoying these videos. Many people who need to see it, most who need to see it, haven't seen it yet. They haven't been introduced to it yet because maybe they're not on YouTube. Maybe I haven't, again, put the right title together. Maybe I haven't structured the first 30 seconds of my video enough so that that person who's just glancing by gets hooked and goes, wait a minute, there might be something to this. And then they stick around and they watch to the end. You know, this is a learning process. This whole challenge is a learning process. And we're trying to get through that together. And that takes me to tomorrow's topic, which will be always be learning. And that's going to be a little, you know, all of these, if you've noticed, all of these videos sort of play off of each other. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about always being learning and what that looks like. And that's going to be in that video right there. So thanks for watching today. I'm so grateful you stopped by. If you're getting value, please remember to subscribe, like, and leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks everybody. Have a great day, and we will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye for now.